Nobody thinks $35 is the number that changes things. It's what you hand over without thinking at a gas station. It disappears on a Saturday afternoon without leaving a trace. It's the amount most people wouldn't even notice going missing from their weekly spending. And it's exactly enough, if it goes in the right direction, to build a portfolio paying $6,000 a month by the time most people are thinking about retirement. The reason most people never get there isn't income. It isn't discipline. It isn't access to some investment world that's closed to regular people. It's that nobody showed them what $35 a week actually becomes when it's structured correctly and left alone long enough to do what compounding does. That's what this is about. Here's what's quietly happening inside every serious dividend portfolio. Money generates income. That income buys more of the thing that generated it. That larger holding generates more income. The cycle repeats. Not because of skill or timing, but because of structure. This is dividend reinvestment, and it's the reason a small weekly amount has the potential to compound into something most people assume is out of reach. Think about two neighbors, call them Ryan and Claire. Both earn similar incomes. Both have $35 a week they could redirect toward investing. Ryan spends his on convenience, subscriptions, takeout, things that disappear without a trace by Friday. Claire puts hers into a dividend portfolio and sets reinvestment to automatic. 10 years later, the dollar amounts they've spent are nearly identical. What they own is not. The strategy Claire is using has a formal name, DRIP, Dividend Reinvestment Plan. Instead of receiving dividend payments as cash, those payments flow back into the portfolio as additional shares. The position grows. A larger position produces larger payments. Those payments grow the position further. What makes this different from simply saving is that the engine runs whether you're paying attention or not. Set it up once and the structure does the work. There's a secondary effect inside this approach that most people overlook entirely. Contributing a fixed amount every week means the price paid per share varies naturally with the market. In strong months, the same $35 stretches less. In weaker months, it goes further. Over time, the average cost per share settles somewhere reasonable, without ever requiring a decision about when to buy. The investor who keeps contributing when the market pulls back doesn't just hold steady. They quietly accumulate more at better prices, positioning for stronger income growth when conditions improve. Now the math, because this is where the numbers stop looking theoretical. $35 a week is $140 a month, $1,820 a year. A portfolio built on blue-chip dividend payers, dividend aristocrats, and growth-oriented companies, businesses with decades of consistent dividend growth, has historically returned around 11% annually when dividends are reinvested. At that rate, the $35 weekly contribution reaches approximately $32,000 after 10 years, not from what you saved, from what the money did while you weren't watching. At 20 years, the same contribution has grown to roughly $148,000. The compounding is now doing more work than the contributions themselves. The dividends being reinvested each quarter generate more annual growth than the $1,820 going in each year. This is the crossover point most investors never reach, not because the math stops working, but because they stopped contributing before it had time to. 30 years in, that $35 a week has the potential to reach over $600,000. At a dividend yield of 2.5% on that balance, the portfolio generates roughly $15,000 annually, without selling a single share. Add dividend growth of 10 to 15% annually, which companies like Home Depot, Microsoft, and NextEra Energy have delivered consistently, and $6,000 a month in dividend income becomes a realistic projection within that window. The stock selection inside this kind of portfolio matters more than most people realize. Blue-chip dividend payers provide the foundation, businesses whose payment histories span decades and signal genuine financial durability. Above those sit a narrower group, companies that haven't just maintained dividends through difficult periods, but increased them year after year, regardless of economic conditions. Growth-oriented dividend stocks complete the picture, adding capital appreciation alongside the income stream. A focused portfolio built across these three categories has historically outperformed a collection of high-yield names chased for their headline numbers. Yield without durability tends to disappoint over time. The part that tends to surprise people isn't the 30-year projection. It's the realization that $35 a week is already leaving most people's hands, just not toward anything that compounds. It's rounding errors on a grocery run. It's the difference between the plan someone barely uses and the one they actually need. The amount isn't the obstacle, the direction is. This isn't financial advice in the formal sense. The projections depend on return assumptions that history supports but can't guarantee. What the data consistently shows is that investors who start with a modest weekly contribution, choose quality dividend-growing companies, reinvest every payment, and don't stop when markets get uncomfortable, end up somewhere fundamentally different than those who waited for conditions to feel right. Conditions rarely feel right. The $35 either goes in or it doesn't. Ryan and Claire are still neighbors. 10 years from now, they'll still earn similar incomes, but one of them will have a portfolio generating income every quarter, income that buys more shares, which generate more income, while the other is still waiting for the right moment to start. The right moment was $35 ago.